Hi friends, I am Ariel and welcome back to my English channel. Today, I am going to talk about how to speak English better. Some of you have given comments that are very insightful. Some of you have added a creative twist to the story, which is also wonderful. All these are ways in which you can experiment with your listening. I am very happy that you're doing it, so keep it up. See, the exercise we did today, by listening to something twice, helps you memorize it. Some of you have such good memories that you are reproducing the same language as what I am reading, but it's a small passage. So you may say, "Okay, we can't do this for longer ones." Begin with a small one, say 4 lines, and then gradually move to 400 lines. Your entire 1-hour lecture from a 15-week semester will remain in your mind. It's a wonderful memory development process, too. But today, we are focusing on communication. So, the 2 things we did today are, we practiced listening. All of you who had to speak, I can guarantee, were listening 100%. I can't guarantee the same for the remaining 4 groups, as I have no way of testing them. We practiced speaking. Those of you who spoke narrated the story as it was. I have no complaints, which means you were listening with full concentration. You were not listening half-heartedly. The first quality of listening is to listen attentively. The second quality of listening is to make use of what you've heard. And you did just that. You listened, grasped the idea, and narrated it. That is the second aspect of listening. The third is you supplemented it. You added something also to it. So these are all the great things about listening. The first exercise we did was listening, but we combined listening with speaking because you also spoke. So what are the things you have to remember about speaking? I will tell you a few of them. The first is that when you're speaking to a group, please be aware whether you are heard or not. There is a mic, which is a flexible mic. Can't you adjust the mic? Haven't you seen a mic before? Why is it that you are unable to listen to yourself? You're so excited about speaking that you're not listening. That's not correct. Whatever you say, you have to listen. I saw 2 or 3 students adjusting the mic out of 54, which is very bad. You can't calculate the percentage. It's a very bad percentage. So don't do that. Whenever you come to the mic, you say one word and see. Can it be heard? Can the others listen to what you are saying? Or are you speaking only to me? I can hear you without that mic. I'm sitting next to you. So the first thing is when we are speaking for others, not for ourselves. Is it audible to everybody? Is it clear? Somebody spoke very fast. I told you in the morning that when we are speaking, especially when you're speaking to a group, speak slowly. When you are speaking to a friend, you speak fast. You know, today we had a workshop, which was very nice. I didn't just like the workshop, I loved it. The focus on sensory elements and one-to-one conversation was fantastic. The pace was correct, especially when considering Indian languages. In Indian languages, we often have a consonant-vowel-consonant pattern. English, however, is not structured in the same way. It has consonant clusters followed by a vowel and then another consonant cluster. So, give it a little space. You'll notice that people speaking English often insert sounds like and so on. This isn't like how we speak Telugu, Hindi, or any other Indian language. The pace is different. Here's an important point. Don't use the intonation of your mother tongue when speaking English. English has its own intonation, and your mother tongue has a different one. For instance, if you listen to Radio Mirchi, you might notice that some people speak Telugu as if it were English. That's not ideal. You should aim to speak English like English, and Telugu like Telugu. Speak with clarity and in a way that delights your audience. Avoid mixing the intonations of languages. Who can mix them successfully? Those who are equally fluent in both English and Telugu. Such people can blend them effectively. However, this is not appropriate in informal settings like Radio Mirchi. You can try it on a formal platform, such as a college function, an interview, or a job presentation, but only if you are confident in both languages. Mixing intonations in the wrong setting can confuse your audience, so it's better to stick to one language and its unique rhythm. Formal English and informal English are distinct, especially when speaking. This distinction is essential to understand and practice. We often switch between the two depending on the situation. For example, if someone comes to the mic and says, "Hey guys, how are you?" That's informal English. When to use informal English? Informal English is appropriate when you're among friends or in casual settings, such as a farewell party or a freshers party. In such cases, saying, "Hey guys," is fine. When to use formal English? However, in formal situations, such as addressing an audience, it's better to say, "Hello audience," or "Hello friends," or "Hello classmates." These phrases are respectful and suit formal occasions. This difference highlights the influence of British and American English on us. British English tends to be very formal, while American English is more informal. Today, we often mix the two without realizing it. That's why we must pay attention to the context. Informal and formal greetings differ in tone and context. For instance, an informal greeting could be, "Hi guys," while a formal one might be, "Hello audience." Regarding words like wanna and gonna, these are often used in very informal English by native speakers, but if your English is still improving, it's better to say "I want to" or "I am going to." Master formal English first. Once you've perfected it, you can use informal phrases appropriately. Spelling and context are also critical. Writing GR8 instead of great might be acceptable in a WhatsApp message among friends, but doing so in an exam will cost you marks. Always choose the appropriate style based on the context. Informal English for casual situations and formal English when required. For example, you wouldn't say, "Hey man, what's up?" to your principal, nor would you address your friend with a formal tone like, "Mandy, may I have a word with you?" Language is about context. So when speaking, adapt your register, vocabulary, and structure accordingly. Speak formally to your principal and informally to your friends. While writing, informal English is fine for friends, but when addressing your principal, avoid phrases like, "Hi, please give me 1 day's leave." Communication is most effective when your language suits the situation. He is your principal, isn't he? Or perhaps your teacher. Either way, you must be careful about how you communicate with them. This brings us to the point of speaking formally versus informally. I've also mentioned that listening and speaking are interconnected, and it's essential to consider these aspects for effective communication. Informal and formal greetings differ in tone and context. For instance, an informal greeting could be, "Hi guys," while a formal one might be, "Hello audience." Regarding words like wanna and gonna, these are often used in very informal English by native speakers, but if your English is still improving, it's better to say, "I want to," or "I am going to." Master formal English first. Once you've perfected it, you can use informal phrases appropriately. Spelling and context are also critical. Writing GR8 instead of great might be acceptable in a WhatsApp message among friends, but doing so in an exam will cost you marks. Always choose the appropriate style based on the context. Informal English for casual situations and formal English when required. For example, you wouldn't say, "Hey man, what's up?" to your principal, nor would you address your friend with a formal tone like, "Mandy, may I have a word with you?" Language is about context, so when speaking, adapt your register, vocabulary, and structure accordingly. Speak formally to your principal and informally to your friends. While writing, informal English is fine for friends, but when addressing your principal, avoid phrases like, "Hi, please give me 1 day's leave." Communication is most effective when your language suits the situation. He is your principal, isn't he? Or perhaps your teacher. Either way, you must be careful about how you communicate with them. This brings us to the point of speaking formally versus informally. I've also mentioned that listening and speaking are interconnected, and it's essential to consider these aspects for effective communication. We have a word called humor and another called rumor. Have you noticed how a rumor changes as it spreads? For example, someone might start by saying, "There were clouds this morning," but by the time it reaches the 100th person, the story becomes, "There was a cyclone in Hyderabad." What actually happened is that the original message about clouds was corrupted during the process of listening and retelling. This highlights how critical accurate listening and understanding are. Consider the word miracle as an example. Historically, with the rise of science in the 19th century, there was conflict between scientific and religious vocabularies. Science dismissed religion as unscientific, and religion resisted science's assertions. Charles Darwin's theories, for instance, challenged traditional religious beliefs, sparking debates. But miracles can also be understood metaphorically as a way to appreciate the wonders of nature. Take the mango tree. From a dried seed planted in the dirt, emerges a tree that bears delicious fruit without any human intervention. It's nature's miracle. Similarly, tea leaves, which appear unremarkable, create a delightful drink when boiled. These everyday occurrences, though explainable by science, still inspire awe. Even breathing, which we do unconsciously, is a miracle of life. How many times have you breathed since 10 a.m.? Likely you haven't counted, yet it sustains you. The heart, too, beats tirelessly, long before scientists discovered its mechanisms. Newton didn't invent gravity. He merely explained a force that had always existed. Likewise, science reveals the principles underlying nature's wonders, but the miraculous essence of life has always been there. Sri Ramakrishna once shared stories to explain such concepts when education in India was limited, showing how even simple observations can reflect profound truths. In the past, formal education was rare, and people primarily learned through songs and plays, often with religious themes. For example, stories like Hanuman jumping across the ocean to reach Sri Lanka symbolize miracles beyond human ability. If we were to stand at the edge of the country and wish to jump across the ocean like Hanuman, we'd still need a flight or a boat. This illustrates the importance of understanding these stories metaphorically. One of the students wisely noted that everything around us is miraculous, which shows maturity and thought. Such ideas and expressions must be paired with proper intonation, pronunciation, and structure to communicate effectively. Self-improvement begins with recognizing where we are and identifying areas for growth. For instance, when we speak, our pronunciation and intonation are the first things others notice. Since we learn our mother tongue before English, many of us carry the influence of our native language into our English speech. This can hinder intelligibility, especially in professional settings where neutral or standard English is often expected. To improve, we must focus on pronunciation by listening extensively, not just for understanding, but to internalize correct sounds. Tools like dictionary.com allow us to hear and practice pronunciations repeatedly. Modern resources, like the Oxford Dictionary with its accompanying CD, make it easier than ever to refine our language skills. While technology has its downsides, such as contributing to global warming, it also offers tremendous advantages, including language learning aids. For example, the word creature, spelled creature, is often mispronounced. It is pronounced as creature, not creature. By leveraging these resources and paying attention to details like pronunciation, we can improve our communication and present ourselves more effectively. When discussing pronunciation, it's important to note that English is not a very phonetic language, so we cannot always rely on spellings. For example, consider the word create, which is pronounced with an A sound, as in creation. However, in the word creature, we don't use the same A sound. It's pronounced differently, as creature. This inconsistency highlights the need to focus on pronunciation rather than spelling. The word creature means any living being or animal. Practice saying it aloud, creature. Speaking clearly and confidently is crucial, especially in communication. If you've been speaking all day without food or water, your voice may weaken, but projecting your voice is important for others to hear you. Remember, in a classroom setting, speaking softly may make it hard for your teacher to hear. Teachers often joke that they become deaf in class and need students to speak louder. But this is really about encouraging confidence. Speaking loudly and clearly not only helps others understand you, but also builds your self-confidence. Your body language, nonverbal communication, and vocal delivery all reflect your level of confidence. To improve, consider peer evaluation. For example, after an activity, each student could write feedback on slips of paper for their peers. At the end of the day, everyone receives feedback from the entire group. This method, called peer evaluation, is a powerful tool for self-improvement. However, remember to handle feedback constructively. Those who point out your mistakes are your best friends because they help you grow. In contrast, those who only praise you may not always provide the insights you need to improve. Take criticism as an opportunity to learn. For instance, someone might mispronounce determined as determine, but the correct pronunciation is determine with the stress on the first syllable. Paying attention to such details and practicing will greatly enhance your communication skills. The correct pronunciation of determined is determine, with the emphasis on the second syllable, not determine. Pronounce mine correctly when it refers to something like a coal mine or gold mine, but remember that certain words in English deviate from their spellings, such as land versus England. The word England is pronounced with a stress that shifts, making it sound more like England. This highlights the non-phonetic nature of English, where stress and context alter pronunciation. To master these nuances, explore online pronunciation videos dedicated to learning English. You can find countless resources to help you learn difficult words. For example, consider the word intelligence. The noun form is intelligence, while the adjective form is intelligent. Mispronunciations and incorrect usages like saying attendancy instead of attendance or brilliancy instead of brilliance are common errors. These mistakes are understandable, but should be corrected through awareness and practice. Additionally, in English grammar, two nouns cannot typically appear side by side unless one is possessive, using an apostrophe. For example, if someone refers to partial knowledge people, the correct phrasing would be people with partial knowledge. Since knowledge and people are both nouns, connecting them without proper structure leads to errors. These are just a few common mistakes that learners often make, and recognizing them is the first step toward improvement. Let me know if you'd like further refinements. When we communicate, clarity is key, especially when it comes to grammar. Imagine two speakers fighting to be heard, as if one person says, "You stop, I'll speak," and the other insists, "No, you stop, I'll speak." This results in a complete mess, just like when we incorrectly use two nouns side by side without proper structure. For example, saying partial knowledge people causes confusion, just like saying family members or members of the family. The proper phrasing, members of the family, ensures clarity. English, however, can be flexible in certain contexts, and in Indian English, many non-standard expressions are accepted, such as tiffin, which might confuse someone abroad who's unfamiliar with the term. Similarly, the misuse of phrases like pre-pound instead of advanced or can able to instead of just can create unnecessary complications. In language, just as in travel, we don't need to complicate things. For instance, you can't sit in two different coach compartments of a train, so why say can able to? Simplifying language enhances understanding. Another common error is adding the before God when referring to a higher power in a universal sense. In India, we have a pluralistic culture with countless gods. But when talking about the singular concept of a divine force or cosmic intelligence, we say God without the article the. Saying the God invites confusion, as it implies a specific deity, and with so many gods in Indian tradition, the question arises, which God? A more universal philosophical concept of God doesn't need such specification. Swami Vivekananda beautifully illustrated this in one of his stories, where he addressed the complexities and conflicts of religious interpretation, emphasizing the importance of understanding religion beyond narrow boundaries. We must learn to communicate effectively and avoid unnecessary clutter in both our speech and understanding of these concepts. Swami Vivekananda, when confronted with criticism about idol worship, understood that simply condemning the belief wouldn't be effective. Instead, he decided to use a metaphor to make his point. In a king's courtroom, the ministers were voicing their objections to idol worship, influenced by the negative views of foreigners who claimed it was wrong. To address this, Vivekananda proposed a game. He asked them to bring a portrait of the Maharaja, which was done proudly. He then instructed them to place the portrait on the floor. The ministers protested, saying, "How can we put it on the floor? It would be an insult to the Maharaja." Vivekananda replied, "Why are you scared of the picture? The Maharaja is still present here. It's just a picture." He explained that the picture was a reminder of the Maharaja, just as idols in temples serve as reminders of God. The idol itself is not God. It is the representation that helps the worshippers connect with the divine. Vivekananda further elaborated on the concept of Advaita and Dvaita, explaining that India's philosophy and science, with their deepest insights into non-duality and the highest psychology, have been lost over centuries of foreign rule. His lesson was not just about religion, but also about how symbols and reminders can help us connect to higher truths, even when we may not fully understand them.